You're an attorney.
Hmm.
What advice do you have to paralegals that are trying to market paralegal services to attorneys?
Paralegals are hands down the backbone of this profession. You are actively robbing people of the gift that you have to give and really need that service that you have to give because we need it and we need good paralegals. And there's so many law firm owners who need help.
Hi, welcome back to the Paralegal Freelance Lounge podcast. Jacqueline Foster here. Before we jump into my absolutely mind-blowing, incredible interview of Molly Hough, I want to remind you guys really quick that the Freelance Paralegal Roadmap course, which is currently open, is going to close on the 22nd of April. I'm really quick giving you this notice, just as that is this coming Monday. So I don't want you to miss out. I only open this course a few times a year. So if you're ready to start navigating your way through building a freelance paralegal business that's ready to scale to six figures and beyond, make sure you go sign up now. The links are all below. Also, for those listeners that make it to the end of this episode, which I don't foresee having any issue of anybody having an issue getting to the end of this episode, it's that good. Molly has a special gift for you waiting at the end, and you're definitely going to want to take advantage of it. She is an inspiration to me on LinkedIn, on her socials, on everything she's doing. I absolutely watch her very closely, follow her, and you'll definitely want to take advantage of her free gift. So as always, if you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to leave us a rating. And until next week, have great days ahead of you. Well, hello, Molly. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Paralegal Freelance Lounge podcast. I really appreciate your time coming here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's always fun to connect like this. So thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll have a lot of listeners on this episode. I think they're going to spike like immediately because once they see that I have an attorney on the podcast. But I don't want to give any spoiler alerts and of you, and I want to let you kind of tell your story and your background and what you do today. You're living, breathing proof of good personal branding and like getting known in a market. I had Christina Hough on my podcast not too long ago, and she was talking about this attorney she knew of, and immediately I'm like, what she was saying about you, I'm like, oh, that's Molly. It's got to be. And I just think your online presence is so amazing, and the fact that you are an attorney too, as well as now you're going into the coaching space and teaching attorneys. If I'm correct, right? You teach attorneys to grow their law firms and their businesses. So I thought, what better than to have you come on the podcast, talk about all those things. So let's just jump in and tell me a little bit about what you do as your attorney life and your coaching life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, thank you for the compliment. I mean, it's always, you work really hard at a personal brand, and so it's always nice to hear that it's working.
Yeah, totally.
So I appreciate that. So yeah, so about a year and a half ago, I started a training and development program for attorneys who are looking to build books of business. So, in my own career and the lives of, every other woman in the law, we all sort of had this similar experience where, you enter the law firms, you're surrounded by these incredibly smart, talented women. And then as you sort of rise, it just starts to fall off, right? And you're like, what is happening here? And, you learn very quickly how broken the law firm system really is in actually supporting women. And so I knew that I couldn't solve sexism. I couldn't solve, centuries of patriarchy, but I could put more money and autonomy into women's hands. And so it was sort of my small way of just saying, I can't fix all of this, but here's my one way to contribute to the lives and careers of women in the law, to make it more meaningful, more joyful, giving them more control over their schedules, and also just putting more money in their pockets so they're not just making money for mostly white men their entire lives. Like I want them to be making money for themselves. And so I had this skill. And I was, good at it when I was in private practice, realized that I was coaching women without getting paid.
Yep.
And, we're all about paying women. So I finally sort of flipped the switch and said, I've got to make this a little bit more formal and turn this into something. So that's when I launched, my personal brand and starting to help women build their own book of business in the law. And it's been incredible. I mean, it's the coolest job in the world.
Right.
I love it so much. I mean, even this morning, I'm getting texts from a client who just finished up in one of my masterminds, and she's in like an accountability group now with other women in the mastermind, and sent me this text, was like, LinkedIn is working, and like I just got my first referral from LinkedIn, and she's only been posting for 3 weeks. So it's just really fun to get texts like that throughout the day.
And I can resonate a lot with you. When I went into the paralegal coaching, like obviously I don't coach attorneys other than the consulting I do with the staffing of their firms. But when I went into coaching paralegals, same thing. It was like I was doing it for free and I didn't even realize I was doing it, which was
Yeah.
totally fine. I loved doing it. But I'm like, if I really want to actually make a difference in people's lives, like reach more paralegals, I have to make this actually a business for myself. And every day I feel like I'm pretending to work. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, do I have a real job? Because
Yeah.
this doesn't feel like a job. This feels like passion work.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
totally get that. Are you still practicing too?
Yeah, I am. So which is so funny. I get asked about this all the time. Like, how do you do both?
Yeah.
So I have an incredible job. So I'm in-house counsel for a company. I manage their litigation, and they are so supportive of what I do, which is the coolest thing ever. And I wish that I could um pick up my boss and put her on a podcast someday, honestly, and just say like, can you talk to other bosses on how to support your employees well and doing
Right.
things that are outside of their 9 to 5? Because she does it so well. Like she like reposts my stuff on LinkedIn. It's like, go follow this person, and we love what she's doing. And
Yeah.
um, and the company in and of itself, I think just does such a good job of as long as you're doing your work and doing it well, we want to encourage you and what you're doing outside of your job. So I'm in a very lucky spot in that. That has not always been the case, and I know that is not always the case for many people. But I have this great job, and this I think, makes me a much better attorney because I get to follow this passion side of me too. And writing online every day also makes you a better attorney.
Yep. You have all the critics in the world watching you too.
Yeah, right, right.
You
Yeah,
know,
because Jacqueline, how long have you been in the online space, like building your own personal brand?
probably since 2020. And when I
Yeah.
say probably, I started in the online space in 2018 of freelancing and working that to that capacity, but I was very inactive. So 2020 would be about when I started.
Have you had the experience of just watching your confidence grow?
100%. I just
Yeah.
did a marketing mastermind for my paralegals.
Mhm.
And, I'm taking them through all the marketing that they could do within content marketing, what works best for reaching attorneys, what doesn't work, what not to do. And,
Mhm.
I keep talking about video and they're like, there's no way I'd ever get on video. There's no way my confidence could do that. And I'm like, go back and watch the very first video I ever posted somewhere
Yep.
because it was probably awful.
Yep.
You get more and more confident. And it has, just like you said, with your work in your practice as an attorney, like bringing that passion into everything you do, it just changes the game. Like I found myself even more in my staffing agency and my business that I run, feeling more alive and more confident in myself just by demonstrating a personal brand, which is the whole reason I brought you on here, because I want to pick your brain. Personal branding is for me such a hard thing to describe from an A to Z concept, like do this, then do that, then do this, because it's a feeling. And it goes beyond the imagery. It goes beyond, the headshots, the colors, and even the words. It's everything to me put together that gives you a feeling. And when somebody gives you a feeling online of any sort, whether good, bad, inspiring or not, you remember them. And that's
Yep.
you for me. I barely have to scroll and I can just see a glimpse of, your picture and I immediately know what you're here to say and I need to hear it. So If I could, I mean, I don't have a direct question of what's the magic sauce to
Yeah.
building a big, strong personal brand, especially on a professional platform like LinkedIn. And further, a lot of my, listeners are paralegals, and we get so intimidated trying to demonstrate a personal brand to attorneys. It's hard to get out of the imposter syndrome because attorneys can be intimidating, especially in the online space. So,
Right.
what would be sort of your beginner's guide to somebody that's never posted on LinkedIn before? They want to start building a personal brand, and LinkedIn is the
Mhm.
path they want to go. Where do they begin?
Yeah. Well, I think a few things. First is in a comment you said earlier, I always tell my clients, they followed me, they hired me for that reason.
Mhm.
And I always tell them when they're starting to think about LinkedIn, I said, do you know what my first posts were? Do you even remember what I posted last week?
Yeah.
And the answer is always no. And which is good. Like I show that to say, if you go back and look at my first LinkedIn posts, they're weird and cringy and not great. They
Yep.
just were, right?
Yep.
Because you're trying to find your voice. And so I just say that as like an encouragement that no one, no one is paying attention to you really
Right.
when you
Right.
first begin. And that should actually be a huge relief to you because I spent, it took me a year to get the courage to post on LinkedIn
Really?
because I was so afraid of what, oh yeah. Because I was so afraid of what every attorney was going to think of me, right? Like, what is everyone going to think that, who am I to be posting and, positioning myself as an expert? Um,
Mm.
Nobody cares.
Nobody
And the
cares.
people that do care or who are saying something behind your back or like it's not clicking for them, they are not your people. That is not who you should be surrounding yourself with anyways. And so what it does is it just opens up this huge world to you to attract the people that are meant for you. I always say this sort of tagline of I met more people in posting 6 months on LinkedIn than I did the first 6 years as an attorney. The
Incredible.
power of I finally found my people, right?
Yeah.
I found people like you and I found Christina Hough and all these other people who wanted to do things differently. So that's sort of like step one of just sort of an encouragement to your listeners. I think if I were, starting from scratch, let's just pick LinkedIn. I think attorneys in general and paralegals in general really have to get an understanding of who they're talking to. And that takes some intentional work, right? And I'm not saying that you have to have it perfectly figured out. I didn't. My message has changed. I think you have to go on starting with some sort of who am I speaking to and why is what I'm saying important? You know? Otherwise, I think it's going to fall kind of flat. And you see a lot of attorneys
Mm.
who are really smart, and other paralegals too, or legal assistants or whoever. Um, you can tell there isn't really a strong why, it just sort of falls flat. So I think trying to find something that really connects with your audience, and for me, that's the why, right? So everything that I'm writing out of is through my why, which is to put more money, autonomy, and control into the hands of women. And then the second piece is you have to just sort of begin. If you don't begin, you're just going to be stuck in this loop of overthinking for a very long time.
I think 90% of my listeners get so tired of me saying this because I find a way to bring it into every training, every video, every blog I do about building successful businesses in the online space. You have to know who your ideal client is. Like, and in my
Yeah.
roadmap course, I actually take them through an entire hour and a half of dissecting who that person is. Like, what is the day in the life of attorney John, who you are speaking to on LinkedIn going forward? And how are you coming in to solve the problems that he has, and what are those problems? And not only professionally, personally, how is that affecting
Mhm.
home life or personal satisfaction or development, in having busy law firms or not having the adequate staff to support their practice. And
Right.
I think people skip that step so quickly because it's like, it seems like, I don't want to say woo woo, but I skipped it in the beginning. I was like, I know everybody keeps saying to
Yep.
like figure out this ideal client, but I know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to busy attorneys that need staff, and I know who I'm talking to. And then it was like a game changer when I created, I hate calling it an avatar, that freaks me out, but a client avatar, and
Yeah.
sitting down, and it was more of a narrative of the person's day in the life.
Yeah.
And every time I went to write content, I reminded myself, like, what did they experience today? Number one, I love that you said it, like, forget about it. No one cares anyway. Like,
Yeah.
it's so true.
Yeah. Nobody cares. But you
Yeah,
think they do. And
right.
that's what's so scary about it is like, I mean, I fell into this trap. So I truly deeply understand it. Um, but nobody cares.
Right.
No one is thinking about you or talking about you. And again, and I don't mean that in a mean way, like
No,
I
it's
hope that
good.
that is freeing for people. And again, if anybody is, and they for some reason have a problem with you putting a really positive message out there, then that says way more about them than it does you. And that's
Absolutely.
just not your problem.
Absolutely. I know that like paralegals, for instance, they really struggle with, how am I going to tell an attorney that I like am really smart and I'm an expert and I
Yeah.
can come support them? I said to them, like, trust me, that's how I felt when I started. I'm like, all I could think about was some old attorneys that I used to work for laughing at me behind my back or saying,
Yeah.
like, she's not that good. Like, how could she possibly offer freelance services and charge that rate and all
Mhm.
those things? And I'm like, you know what? Instead of posting about how things I know, I'm just going to talk about how I can change their practice, instead. Like, how can I come in to solve, not about the specifics? Like, I'm not here to prove that I can draft the best memo in the world or I can do the best legal, whatever, right? I'm like, I'm here to just show them how I can solve a problem in their law firm. And I accidentally did that because I was so scared to write anything substantive because I thought
Yeah.
I had to prove to all of them that I was really, really smart. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, not really. Like you said, they don't really care. But when you write us something on there about specifically their problems or what they're going through on a day-to-day basis, then they pay attention. Then they see what you're saying.
Yeah, I've really boiled it down to so you'll see my posts on LinkedIn. You'll see my Friday posts usually have the most engagement
Mhm.
because not because it's Friday, but because I usually do like inspirational posts on Friday.
Yep.
Then my content Monday through Thursday is speaking to my specific audience, right? So I'm capturing people with some inspirational content to get people in the door. And then my lower engagement content is because I'm speaking really specifically to my ideal client,
Right.
right? And that's not going to connect with everybody, but that's not 90% of my content is there to connect with the right people, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then I just sort of use this like inspirational post as a way to like get their reach. And then even within that Monday through Thursday, so I typically have two posts that are like educational, like a value add of some kind. And then I typically have one post that is like selling something, right? So like sign up for a strategy session with me or sign up for
Sure.
my mastermind or come to my coaching kitchen or right. Like there's something in there that's like here's a client testimonial and here's why you should trust me. But that's kind of like how I like
Right.
plan out those weeks to speak really directly to somebody and to trigger them to buying from me, right? Because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm selling to you.
Right.
Right. Because I also see a lot of people on LinkedIn who have a lot of followers but haven't monetized it. And that's not what I want. And that's not who I want to be. So I have a lot, I would say, slower growth, but I'm making money. So I feel like I prefer that.
Yeah, no, definitely. If you are aiming to go viral, for instance. And I feel like all my paralegals say that, like, oh, but like, how do I only get like 2 likes on my post. I'm like, so that means you
Yeah.
reached 2 people that day. Like, that's great. And they're like, yeah, but you see all these other people on LinkedIn that are, they have 50,000 followers and they're getting 200 likes on each post. I'm like, yeah, but do you think that a lot of those people are just click happy and they're posting entertainment content? That's it.
Mhm.
It's just entertainment. And I'm like, what good is it to have a following of 100,000 people, for instance, if you can't even convert 0.2% of them? I've been really intentional about how I built my LinkedIn network. Like, I only want people in it that are in my, somehow I can help them or they can help me, right? Like, I don't want
Oh, yeah.
all over the board. But I'm like, but if you look at my website conversions, for instance, I might not get a high view. I might only get 300 unique views to my agency website every single month. but I convert 4% of those, which is pretty high on the industry standard, right?
It is.
Into a
Yeah.
discovery call. And then those discovery calls convert even further because it's always going to be a client that's already a right fit. They are pre-qualified
Right.
before. I kind of want to change direction here a little bit. We're talking about LinkedIn and getting to the branding. How maybe you don't even know how you're doing it. How do you do it so well? Because it's like I see your stuff and it's like you have a brand. I recognize a brand, and it's even harder in like the service, educational, coaching business to make a brand, in my opinion, beyond,
Yeah.
like products.
Yeah.
How do you do it? What are you even mindfully doing it, or is it just coming out naturally?
Some of it's natural, but I think saying that it's all natural would be bullshit. It takes a ton of intentional work. Like I'm not gonna lie about that. It takes a lot of planning. When we're talking about branding, it's a lot of things, right? Like when I first started, I mean, it'd be funny if I could like pull up my first website or something. It was awful and different colors than I have now, different logos, different everything. But I just started, right? And then you make some money, you can hire people to help you with like website and design and logos and colors
Right.
and all that sort of stuff, and photo shoots and all that, right? Like that's all the additions that come to helping this look like a complete put together brand.
Yep.
But to me, the brand is what you were saying, which is like how I'm making people feel and how I'm connecting with them. I think my voice has been a refreshing spot for people. This might be a little bit controversial, but wellness is super important. I'm tired of talking about wellness.
I get it.
I'm tired of it feels like in particular female attorneys talking about wellness. I want to talk about money. I want to talk about business. I want to talk about how to get you to partnership. And again, those conversations are so important and I love that work. But I think I was able to come in and sort of fit this niche that says, I'm going to be really honest about what this takes, but I'm also going to do it in a way that is motivating you to not just give up and say, like, well, there's no hope, so might as well just not do this. Yeah. And then, I work really hard at my content. You know, um, it's much easier now because I just know what I'm saying and what connects with people. But it took a really long time to figure out like what connects with people. And then to also be okay with the fact that, the content on the days where I'm like selling to people gets like 15 likes. But that's okay because almost all of my clients are lurkers. They're not the people who are in my comments, right? It's
Right.
not the people really liking my post. It's all lurkers. It's all people who don't interact with my stuff but are seeing it anyways.
There's so much truth to that. So much truth to
Yeah.
that. I would say like 50% of the people that bought my course, it's open this week, that bought it, I've never seen their name in my life.
Yeah, never met them. Never talked to them.
Yeah.
But they're
Never
paying
seen a like,
attention.
a comment. And I pay attention to, my LinkedIn, and I try to
Yeah,
build actually genuine connections there. That is my ultimate goal. Um,
right,
not just, try to get my likes up. I like to be able to hop on a webinar and see profile pictures and recognize them and be like, oh,
right.
hey, like, thanks for joining me again.
Yeah.
That's what's important to me, but you're so right. It's like, not everybody is an engager on social media.
And I'll also say long-term consistency will always beat short-term intensity. And most people focus on short-term intensity, right? They get the motivation, they're excited, they post a few times, they ghost because they're trying to create the perfect post. Lots of my posts, I go, this is not perfect. This isn't even that great, but it's good. So I'm
Yeah.
going to post it anyways. I'm not going to spend all of this time trying to make every post the post that's going to go viral. And people consistently see me. And there's posts that resonate better than others, but they're seeing me every day. And
Yeah.
that's what matters, right? So that long-term consistency, I would say, is a huge part of branding rather than the short-term intensity. And back to your comment too about building the right audience. LinkedIn specifically doesn't want you to go viral. I've had lots of viral posts, and I have under 10K followers, and I always get, hundreds of requests after something like that. I have thousands, I would say, of requests sitting in my inbox because I only accept ideal clients as
Yep.
my, I only accept attorneys or paralegals or, people in the legal world. I am
In your
not
space.
accepting marketers and salespeople and financial
Personal
people
coaches.
and personal coaches
Yeah.
and, to help keep the algorithm in front of the right audience. And I know people struggle with that too. Like, can I just not accept their requests? I'm like, yes, you can. They can follow you,
Yeah.
but you do not have to put them in your network.
Yeah, no, I know exactly. And that's
Yeah.
I know a lot of people make that big mistake and then it's hard to undo. Once
Yeah.
if you've just gone on and you've accepted everything and you've sent invites to realtors and dentists and doctors and the local chiropractor and all these things, which I'm not, local, that whatever. But yeah, to your point, it's like you want to make sure it's continuing to get in the right audience. I've never actually heard that LinkedIn doesn't want you to go viral. Why do you think that is?
LinkedIn's algorithm, they just don't want posts going viral because they're focused on like really having niche target audiences, right? So they
Yeah.
want the right content showing up in front of the right people. I would say educational post is what does the best. But it's mostly because LinkedIn doesn't want to be
The next
TikTok
TikTok.
or Instagram or all these other platforms, right? Even though I will tell you this, LinkedIn is thinking about implementing their own like video
Oh, really?
content. So you can post video content on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I heard a rumor recently that they're thinking about doing that. And I'm like, LinkedIn is already cringe enough.
I know, I can't
It just
imagine
is like
like all
there's
the awkwardness in those videos.
I
I
know.
don't think that's a good idea because I think
Yeah.
it'll just be constant promotion. I put
No, it
videos on
is.
LinkedIn all the time. I
Yeah.
take like my TikTok videos, like the ones that are really good, my educational ones, shorts.
Yep.
But I could just see it becoming just all it would.
Yeah.
On TikTok now you scroll and it's even annoying to see ads pop up. It's like, God, TikTok.
It has become QVC. It's
Yes.
so annoying to me. But all of these platforms, I think we're really oversaturated. This is an interesting conversation. I don't know if we want to go down this road, but um, you know, people who are not on LinkedIn really complain about LinkedIn as like being the worst social media platform because of how cringe it is.
Yeah.
And I get it. There's so many posts I scroll past. And I think that's it. Like when you're talking about personal branding, I think that's another reason why people connect with me because I'm not I would hope that I don't give off the cringe vibes. I'm sure
No,
I
every time I see your posts, whether it's a picture like you're in it or
yeah.
just not a picture, I feel like you're a woman that's like burning down patriarchy on Wall Street. Like that's what you're doing, and that's the feeling I get of
Yeah.
like you're here to empower other women to not just continue in the societal norms, especially
Yeah.
in the practice of law, obviously.
No, thank you for saying that. But there are so many posts that I'm like, this is why people hate this platform.
I know.
Um, yeah, so there's lots of stuff I scroll past that I'm like, why did we choose to post this on the internet? But whatever, that's me being judgmental. It's working for some people, so Godspeed if that's what works for you. It's
Right.
it's not really in line with how I would like to show up online, but I tell all of my clients this. Some are not, don't really want to be seen on the social media world. Totally get it. But I do think the ROI on efficiently posting online is massive.
Right.
And you are missing out on getting clients much faster if you are not willing to put yourself out there online. And again, it's super scary, but I think once you get past that initial, like, oh, okay, this is fine. Like, my world hasn't blown up just because I'm posting online. The other thing I tell my clients too, social media is not for your friends. It
Yeah.
used to be, it is not anymore. It is not for your friends. It is how you reach people that you are trying to serve. And I would also love to share with your audience that stop robbing people who need your service by sitting at home, not being seen online or not going to the event or not writing the article or not being on the panel. You are actively robbing people of the gift that you have to give and really need that service that you have to give. And
Yeah.
paralegals are hands down the backbone of this profession and deserve way more credit and visibility than I think paralegals get. So to me, I know not everybody has this mentality, but to me, I'm like, I respect you guys way more than I think. Like hearing you say that people are afraid to, be like, what is this attorney thinking? And they're really smart and, yada,
Yeah.
yada. I'm sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, this is paralegal thing. I'm an idiot because I'm asking them this question.
Yeah, I love
So I
that.
think it definitely goes both ways. And I think millennials have really come up with that mentality of, wow, we're so grateful for you, and what you do for us in this profession. And so stop robbing people of your talents and your gifts and what you have to give, because we need it and we need good paralegals. And there's so many law firm owners who need help. So I think coming at it from that mentality rather than, oh my gosh, what is everybody going to think of me? I hope will give you some more confidence. What often helps with confidence is having a purpose that you can lean on. So there's actual like scientific research behind this and building confidence.
Yep.
So when you can put together some sort of purpose for your career, doesn't have to be for your life, but at least for a career. When you are not feeling confident, you can lean on your purpose as a way to feel confident. So I used to do this all the time. I would walk into a room and be like, why am I in this room? Do I deserve to be in this room? Do I deserve to take up space? And then I'd walk in and be like, there is a reason why I'm here. And I'm here because of my purpose. And that can elevate you to put away some of your own personal fears and just rely on something that you know is true. And there's scientific research behind that. So putting a purpose together is not some woo-woo thing. There are actual benefits to it. And one of those is confidence.
And this might be totally off topic, but I have to tell this story because I was reading the book Scale or Fail by Alison Maslon. I ended
Hmm.
up getting it because she had a promotion for, they say like, take my book for free and just pay the $8
Yeah.
shipping. I'm like, well, it was $8 on Amazon and I would have got free shipping, but okay, thank you. Um, anyway, I got this book and I was out in the backyard in the sun reading it. And she had said something along the lines of, you will not ever be able to 10x your business or scale it to the masses that you want to unless you can connect to the purpose of your business. And so then she takes you through sort of, and I'm sorry, Allison, if you're ever listening to this, which she will not be. If I'm butchering kind of, I'm forgetting a little bit how the roadmap goes that she takes you through, but one part of it is what is it that you experienced that you don't want your ideal client to experience? And I'm
Mm.
like, well, crap, there's my problem right there. I was never an attorney. I can't relate. I can't necessarily relate. And all of a sudden, though, it was like my wheels were spinning and I just started journaling on it. And I realized, like, myself, when I started my business, I had very, very little support. And I had a little baby at home. We had no money, all those things. I'm trying to make a difference in our lives without the support. And there were days where I felt so unseen and so like I was failing day after day after day, no support around me. And then it was like a light bulb moment. Even though I've never been an attorney, obviously I've dedicated my whole life to supporting attorneys. But I don't want my ideal clients, my attorneys, as I am serving, to have to go through that struggle of being under supported because they feel like it's either all or nothing. And it was a light bulb moment. And the more I could connect to that purpose, the more I naturally could speak to them. I could talk about it for days about how to help them because my confidence just boom went up where I'm like, yes, I know I'm here for a reason. I don't have to be shy about my reason. I can own my expertise. Even if it's because I can't write the book on it, it's because I lived it. And I've managed to build a business without full-time support and help. You know what I mean? I'm getting kind of down a rabbit hole here. If you can connect that to what you said before, also your ideal client, like who are you speaking to and what's your purpose for being here speaking? It's a game changer and a confidence changer. I love that. That was a really good
Yeah.
tie-in topic.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. I find that most attorneys, and I'd be curious on your perspective if you feel like a paralegal's experience this too. Um, I find that most, there's so much energy put towards entering the legal field. And then once you're in it, it just feels like the joy is sucked out, and the vision is sucked out. And so that's a large part of what I do with my clients of like, let's get back to what the vision is here.
Yeah.
Like let's take you out of billables for a minute or take you out of filings or, all the sort of administrative work. Let's take you out of that for a minute and let's like take a breath and let's put some inspiration back into your lungs so that we can get back to this vision of what you want to do with your career.
Right.
And does that align, like, do your values align with the place that you're at? I had a client recently, we did like a values exercise and she came back to me and she goes, I have not been able to communicate why I didn't like this law firm. And as I was putting my values together, it just clicked that my values are not reflective of the values of the firm. And that's why it's been so difficult for me.
Yep.
And so I think just giving attorneys and paralegals these small tools to infuse some of that vision back into their lives,
Right.
which brings so much joy, is worth every minute. It's going to be inconvenient because
Yep.
it takes intentional work, right? But wow, is it worth it?
I always say, and I don't even, maybe I'm not explaining, maybe it doesn't make sense, but it seems to make sense when I say it like this, paralegals, and actually my attorneys too in the staffing world, is paralegals get overburdened and understimulated at the same time,
Mm,
where they get stuck in this like funnel of just the daily grind of the filings, like you said, the billables, the paper
right.
pushing, and they forget like where they're even wanting to go with their career, or that they still have a say in their own career on growing it.
Yeah.
So that's true. And first foremost, you're an attorney.
Hmm.
What advice do you have to paralegals that are trying to market paralegal services to attorneys?
Yeah, if it was me, I would look for two things. The first thing that I would look for is how can this person make my life easier? Right? I just don't want to do the heavy lift, right? Like I want to know that this person can come on and immediately make my life easier. What that tangibly looks like is does this person have the expertise to come in and immediately take things off my plate? The second thing I would look for is does this person have a presence that is collegial is not the right word, but that's a word that's coming to my brain. Like
Mhm.
someone that can come in and I know is going to merge with staff well and like merge with other people well. And I think you can get that really warm tone across on a LinkedIn post. And also maybe just pointing things out. Like this is part of like making my job easier and not doing the heavy lift, but maybe pointing things out that I'm not even thinking of yet that I would like look at a post and maybe it's a post about operations,
Yep.
right? And I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, I haven't even thought about that, but wow, is that person right?
Yeah.
And making me want to reach out to them and say, hey, what did you mean by, X, Y, and Z? And then the other piece, this goes for attorneys too, but make the ask. We were just talking about this. Um, as an in-house attorney, I'm the client, right? So I wasn't the client for a long time. I was private practice, but now I'm the client. And something that's been a theme among women in-house attorneys that I'm connected with is that women are great at building the relationship and really bad at making the ask. And so I would just encourage you to make the ask. Don't just build, 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 build the relationship.
Great.
Make the ask. And it doesn't have to be icky. It doesn't have to be uncomfortable. It can be one line that just says, hey, I do X. If the opportunity arises, I'd really love to show you how I can make your life easier. Done. One
Simple.
sentence.
Yep.
And that's going to stick with me, right?
That was a good one. That'll definitely stay with you. But I do want everybody to understand what she said before that. After you've built the relationship, don't do that to attorneys you've never talked to before. I promise you, it does not
Oh,
go
yeah, please don't do that.
well.
I won't answer you. I'll write you
No,
off.
blew me away. That last piece is make the ask. And the best way to say it is what you just said. And I love that. And I think a lot of paralegals can take everything you said here today and start trying to market their services to those intimidating attorneys out there. And guys, remember at the
Yeah,
end of the day, like she said, like the attorneys you want to work with, they have respect for you already. You don't have to go and prove that you're worth something in the industry. They already know that. And if they don't, you don't want them as clients.
exactly.
at all.
Exactly. They're not for you.
Molly, what would be the next steps that my listeners could take to where can they go to find more resources from you?
Yeah, so I have a free LinkedIn guide. So it's 90 days to being seen as an expert on LinkedIn. So it's going to take you from, okay, I have 0 followers, I have a generic banner, I don't have a tagline, all the way to 90 days in, doing content pillars and a content schedule, and it's gonna get you up and running in a really positive way. I'm happy to send that to you. You can get it a variety of ways. You can click on a link in my profile and download it. You can DM me. I'd be happy to send it to you. Either way, feel free to
Yeah.
reach out and say hi.
And I'll link that up right in the description too. So they can just
Right,
scroll on
perfect.
this podcast or the YouTube version of this video and go grab it. And I'll link up all of your social links, LinkedIn website, so that you know where to find Molly. Please go follow her. She's one that you want to follow and learn from, just by learn from witnessing. And you won't regret it. Well, thank you so very much, Molly, for joining me today. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.